Okay, welcome to a special bonus episode. This is episode 19. Most of our episodes are, actually, I should go from the top. This is the homicidecanada.com podcast. I'm Phil. I'm here with my co host, Tami. This episode, normally we often cover each month the homicides in Canada. But yeah, occasionally we'll do a special episode on a specific murder or maybe like a theme of murders and that. This time we're doing a episode on the so-called Bathtub Girls homicide. And just to sort of say, like we usually do for the top, we have a website too called homicidecanada.com. Try to track every homicide in Canada. Also have some pages for each province and municipality. Yeah, we're also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I think Twitter we're like homicide_canada.com. Also our emails, info@homicidecanada.com. Before we get into this episode, I'll do it like it's recording this in January 2022. So I'll give a little update on the number of homicides so far. Year to date, in Canada, there's been 48 homicides, 34 males, 13 females. That projects out to a 2022 total of 701 versus the 690 we found so far in 2021. And that projects out to a homicide rate per 100,000 of 1.83. So now with that out of the way, I'll get into the homicide that's kind of noteworthy. The Bathtub Girls. A single mother in Mississauga, Ontario, near Toronto, raised her two daughters alone after her husband left. She had an alcohol dependency and suffered from depression. At the time of her death, she had just been fired from her job. According to police, the daughters, aged 16 and 15, had become irritated by their mother wasting money on alcohol. They were also unhappy that their friends had better things like swimming pools and clothes. The older daughter described surviving childhood sexual abuse, which went unreported by a priest whom she confided in. She talked about her mother's alcoholism and driving drunk. She said her household lacked basic necessities. She tried and failed to report the abuse to the Children's Aid Society.
So because of their circumstances, the sisters began to search on the internet for ways to kill their mother. The teens believed that killing their mother would make them entitled to the $140,000 insurance payment, and they would go on a trip to Europe with their friends. The teens decided on a plan to drown their mother, and on January 18, 2003, the sisters began giving their mother liquor in order to get her drunk, as well as Tylenol 3. The girls filled the bathtub in their Mississauga townhouse with water and took their mother into the bathroom. She got in the tub with difficulty because of her state of inebriation. The eldest daughter allegedly put on gloves, told her mother to lie on her stomach so she could scrub her back. She then held her mother's head underwater for 4 minutes until she was dead.
The two teens then went on to a diner to celebrate with their friends. Later that evening, the teens called 911, telling the operator that they found their mother in the tub, all while crying over the phone. The operator instructed the daughters to perform CPR. Police arrived and believed the story. At the time, the cause of death was determined to be drowning. Toxicology of the deceased's bodily fluids revealed the high levels of alcohol, approximately 400 milligrams per 100 milliliters, and drugs, including codeine and acetaminophen. According to Dr. Timothy Feltist, drowning is not common, and he's only examined 6 or 7 bathtub drownings in his career of over 4,000 medical legal cases. Any death in a bathtub is highly suspicious, and he treated it as a homicide right from the get-go.
A year later, on January 21st, 2004, police arrested the daughters after receiving a tip from a male friend. One of the defendants had confessed to him at a party that she and her sister had killed their mother. The sisters were convicted on December 15, 2005 of first-degree murder. They each received the 10-year maximum sentence, but have since been released and attending separate universities under court-ordered release conditions.
In court documents, the sisters are known only by their initials. Their identity was then and remains now under a publication ban. However, internet sleuthing can find their names on social media because Canadian courts have not been able to control dissemination of content online, despite breaching penalties of up to 2 years in jail and fines. The younger sister's maiden name and married name have been revealed. She's formally changed her name 3 times to restore her invisibility, The sleuths have always caught up. According to the Toronto Star, it was a reporter in Mexico who disclosed her identity, claiming he wasn't bound by Canadian laws. Others have floated the ban since, including most recently a former classmate. She went to her parole officer, who couldn't do anything about it, and then the police, who she said were uninterested. The younger sister did say the police have since opened up a case. She has now earned her law degree and passed the bar exam, and now working in the legal field, she's applying for a license to practice law.
So it's kind of crazy that if you're under the age of 18 and you commit a crime, they can't disclose your identity. But I feel like it always seems to come out. Like, you always hear, like, child murder or whatever.
Yeah.
But why? Why in Canada is it so different?
I don't know. I guess, yeah, we have the Youth Criminal Justice Act. I think that's what it might be called now. I'm not sure on that. But yeah, Canada seems to like really value, I guess, protecting, people before 18 and that, their identities and that, and sort of, I guess, and like I can understand trying to be under a clean slate. Although admittedly, this is first degree murder in that. So
Yeah.
if she had been 18, like that would have been 25 years minimum in terms of jail in that. So,
Yeah.
and the fact that there were 15 and 16 in that.
So I did read too that the younger sister was just in the doorway. Like, she didn't actually commit the murder, but she was still charged with murder.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any information on like what the
older
older
sister
one is
doing in
doing.
that. What I find is interesting is that, like the changing the name aspect, because I guess Carla Homolka had changed her name.
Yeah.
And for a while, I think she was living in the Caribbean in that, but I guess people have kind of caught up to her as well in that. And I know there's the ancient Hamilton 1940s case of Evelyn Dick and that, who was a very notorious person at the time, like a homicide where she was accused of killing her husband and basically her baby and that. And no one has been able to find out like what's happened to her after she was got out of jail on that. It's like apparently she changed her name, and it's kind of interesting that like I don't know, like some people seem to change their names and then they're not able to be found in that. So
Do you think that's like because of pre-internet times?
I think maybe that's true. Yeah. So
Harder to find out. Like,
yeah.
What year did the Ken and Barbie case, like, when did all that happen? Was
the 90s, I guess, then?
like the early 90s,
Early
probably
90s, yeah.
before most people had internet, but
That's probably true, yeah.
but I guess it was still
Yeah.
like close to the internet time.
Yeah. And the one thing is that with Homolka and that, since she was over 18 and that, like her name was
Right.
known, and also her her face was in the papers all the time and that. So
Oh yeah.
I'm sure that it probably wasn't super hard for people to kind of like say like, hey, isn't that Carla Homolka in that? Admittedly, she was older in that, but but this case, there's no name obviously, and then there's no photos of them either in that, like at least that released to the public in that. So
Yeah, nothing. I guess the only way you would know is if you were, like, if you went to school with
yeah,
them,
and it does seem like as we were saying, it does seem like the classmates were part of it in that. So that's kind of interesting. One of the interesting thing about the case is the fact that I guess the medical examiner, just because bathtub accidents, drowning is pretty quite rare. He suspected early on it was homicide in that, but yeah, if she hadn't told some other boy at a party in that she'd never, I don't know, she could have been have gone away. They both could have potentially gotten away with it. So
Yeah, it's so crazy. There's so many little shorts on reenactments on YouTube and stuff about this case, but I had never heard of it until you mentioned it to me.
yeah, it's pretty strange case in that, and it's female on female homicide is it's probably the rarest of male on male versus female in that, I think.
And out of teenage greed.
Yeah, teenage greed in that, to trying to get the insurance policy. Now, admittedly, it doesn't sound like they had a very happy home life in that, but I don't know, it wouldn't have been that much longer until they were 18 and could have gotten out of the house and that. But I don't know. It also seemed like that she was more it was also envy too of her friends in that their lifestyle and that, which admittedly, I can understand that, but I don't think you commit first degree murder because of it. So.
No, and really $140,000 is not that much money in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I suppose to a teenager it probably would have seemed like a fair amount of that, but yeah, it's kind of it's just a really sad case in some ways in that.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, and interesting, yeah, the fact that yeah, if you do commit a crime in Canada under 18 and that, including first degree murder in that, then your record basically gets expunged, and I guess the thing is, it's interesting that yeah, it's so it's in this time of the internet, and obviously the Canadian judges can't do anything about places like the publication ban only applies to Canada. They can't enforce it in other countries and that. So
yeah, I wonder if that's why I always hear about like children killers in the UK and stuff like that. Maybe it doesn't apply to us.
Yeah, I guess that could be true too in that, and certainly in the U.S. I don't think they have like those laws in that for child murderers and that. They seem quite happy to tell you who they are in that. They also have they're more likely to charge them as adults in that, I guess, in the U.S. And I think there's an option in Canada to charge the person as an adult at 16, but I don't know, maybe they didn't do it here. So
yeah, and weren't you saying like is there an age where they don't get tried at all?
If you're under 12, yeah, you wouldn't get tried at all in that.
Wow.
But there's not too many. I don't think there's too many under 12 murderers.
I don't think I've heard of any in Canada at least.
But there was that case just in Toronto. Like we're recording this in January 2021 of a 13-year-old that killed a 15-year-old boy with a gun in that. So yeah, that's pretty close.
Got charged.
He got charged. So, and we won't know his name officially for sure. But yeah, so yeah, it's like definitely like it's an interesting case for a number of aspects in that. But yeah, it's definitely, I find the aspect of we don't really know their name, but you could, if you're willing to do a little bit of looking on the internet, you can find it out in that. So obviously we're not going to tell you because we're based in Canada and we're not going to violate any laws in that. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. And yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like one of those American like TV movies or something like that. So
yeah, and that she's gone on to practice laws that to get her justice.
It's interesting that whenever a lot of people go to jail or something like that, or I don't know, they always end up going to law school. None of them ever becomes an engineer that I know of, or a doctor and that. But yeah, they always end up becoming a lawyer. So
I wonder if there's a lot of access to law.
I don't know. I guess you would have had experience in that with the court system and that.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe in that. So I don't know. That would be. The interesting thing about that is like, she's working for a law firm and that, and then, I don't know, somebody somehow figures out, like, who she is in that. That's got to be fairly strange, so.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, would you feel comfortable if you found out your lawyer was charged with murder at some point?
Maybe she's a criminal defense lawyer. I don't know.
She's really good at her job.
Maybe she's really good at her job. I don't know. If she was my tax lawyer, I don't know if I'd want that. Okay, so yeah, that's been kind of our bonus episode. That was episode 19. So yeah, we should be coming back soon with looking at the January of 2022 homicides in Canada, an episode on that, and then we're going to be doing a statistical sort of retrospective of 2021, the homicides and that. So yeah, we've got a few more episodes will be coming up fairly soon. Yeah, you can always go back and check some of our old episodes in that. Also you can go to our website, homicidecanada.com, check us out on social media. So yeah, until next time.